In this video, we're going to speak about setting a status or statuses within the Power DMS assessment tool. We can set statuses by standard, we can set statuses by chapter, and that would be a bulk setting of statuses by chapter. We can also bulk set the statuses if you participate in a tier 1, such as law enforcement accreditation or campus security accreditation. That tier 1, we sometimes refer to that as LE1 or CS1. If you have questions, of course, there's always help tools underneath in the help menu within your Power DMS application, or reach out to Power DMS support, and your regional program manager is always a good resource. I'm going to navigate away from this PowerPoint and go to my Power DMS. Let's just start at home. Let me clear everything out of here. So in a different recordings, we've subscribed to the standards manuals, we've done orientation, we've done searching, we've created the assessment. And now that my assessment is created and I'm assigned to it, and let's just say I'm the accreditation manager, I'm assigned to it, I see in my to-do or my inbox, I have to-dos. And in this case, these are tasks that read need status. Power DMS is a status-driven application. It wants you to set the appropriate status for each of the standards as you work through your assessment in Power DMS. That is a really helpful management tool to you that you can set the appropriate status. It'll then come out of your inbox. You can set that status to expire if you want on a specific date, because then maybe again you need another proof of compliance, or when your next proofing year starts, you can bulk reset those statuses. So a lot of different ways that you can choose to manage this application and your assessment within Power DMS. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to my assessment. I can do that a couple of different ways. I can click this link here. I can click my tasks here. I can go to my assessments in my blue table of contents. Most of the time, at least for CALIA purposes, you're only ever going to have one open assessment at any given time. But if you participate in more than one accreditation process, you might have more than one assessment, but you typically are just going to have one open assessment. I'm going to click on the title of my assessment, and that brings it up over here on the right. It looks much like just the standards manual look like, but in this case, it's my assessment. I've labeled it in this example, I labeled it as CALIA LE1. Another type of label, I followed the CALIA best practices, might be advanced, the month and the year that my assessment is starting, through the month and the year that I think it's going to end. If it's initial accreditation, you might not know that yet. If it's reaccreditation, once you get your award letter, you'll know when your next site-based assessment is scheduled for, and you'll be able to put that month and that year in there. So you've got some options on that. If I was not in the most current version, I am in the most current version, but if I'm not in the most current version, I'm going to see a blue button in the upper right-hand corner that reads new version available. So just again, a little bit more orientation there. Focusing though on setting a status. So we can do that standard by chapter, or in this case, because I'm participating in Tier 1, LE1, I can bulk set my standards that are advanced. If they're not LE1, maybe I want to bulk set those to not applicable. So always I'm going to see all of the standards. If I start to expand my chapter in Chapter 1, for an example, this does not apply to Communications or Training Academy. There's not 2 levels of accreditation. But for campus security and for law enforcement, there are those 2 levels. So if I'm participating in the first level, Tier 1, I'm going to pay attention to the standards that have that LE1 next to it. All of the standards apply for advanced, again, if they're applicable to you. But for Tier 1, I just need to focus on those LE1s. So, at a glance, that's what I'm looking at. going to navigate back up here to the title of my assessment. So let's start as if you were a tier 1 organization. I'm going to go across the top to the standards tab. I'm assigned as the accreditation manager, so I need to choose the role that I want to set these statuses in. If you're assigned to more than one role, which you very well might be, if you've made these assignments to create a hierarchy, for example, you might need to do these same steps for each of the roles. In this example, I'm only assigned as the accreditation manager. So I select the role that I'm assigned in. First thing I want to do is perform action. The action that I want to do is to set status. I'm going to set the status for all of the standards, all of them, to not applicable. I'm going to click this top checkbox, the green apply, and then all the way at the very bottom, save pending changes. We'll just give that a moment. It says, 462 standards are selected, 462 pending changes. All right, once that updates, scroll up, you can see for my role of accreditation manager, if I hover over this graph, 462 of them now are not applicable. This is something that you would typically do at the beginning of your assessment if you were going to bulk set standards to not applicable, things like that, or set this up for that tier 1. Now I want to come up here, and if I'm campus security, I'm going to type in CS1. In this case, it's for law enforcement. I'm going to type in LE1 and click apply filters. So now what I'm looking at is down here in the bottom right-hand corner, I can see I'm looking at 184 standards, a total of 184 standards in this LE1 in this tier 1. I'm going to perform action again to set status. But this time I'm resetting the status of all of my LE1 standards. I can do a couple of things. I can set it back to not set. Again, Power DMS is a status-driven application. It wants a status set. So if I set these back to not set, it's going to send these back to my inbox, and it's going to be a really great reminder to me of what I have touched, what I have left to touch. Really great way to work from your inbox. Some people, though, that might drive them crazy. They know what they want. They know what they need. If they don't want those going back to their inbox, maybe my option is that I set those to in progress. As long as the status is set, they're not going to be in my inbox. In another video, we talk about creating tasks, and you might create recurring tasks. So those will come to your inbox on the date that you set. So that's up to you. I'm going to suggest, though, to start off that we reset these back to not set. So the blank right here is an option. So make sure that's set to blank. I want to reselect all of them, apply the status to selected standards, scroll down to the very bottom and click that green Save Pending Changes. So I'm resetting the status for all of my LE1 standards, 184 of them, back to not set. Once my inbox updates, I no longer would have 462 standards here. I would only have that 184. So that already helps me. Well, now, as an organization, you might have chapters in their entirety, maybe that they don't apply to you. Me, I'm going to scroll down through these chapters. Maybe I'm not responsible for court security. So this chapter 73 in its entirety is not applicable to me. So again, as the accreditation manager, set status. I want to set this entire chapter to not applicable, apply, and save. And maybe also, maybe I'm not, as an organization, we're not responsible for Chapter 91, Campus Security. So I'm going to click on that specific chapter, perform action to set the status, set the entire chapter as not applicable, select, apply, and save. All right, so now if I come back up to the title of my assessment, or the root there, what I would have in my inbox once it all updates is I've gone from 462 down to 184 now, all the way down to 168. So I'm already starting to make this more manageable, and I know that what's in my inbox is what I need to address. As you start to add proofs of compliance, which we address in another video, you may set the status standard by standard, but just keep in mind you don't have to do, if you're tier one or if an entire chapter is not applicable to you, you don't have to do that standard by standard. You can go through those steps that we just went through. But if I want to drill down to 1.1.1, it's an LE1 standard. Maybe I've already added my attachments and my proofs of compliance. If I want to just set this specific standard to in compliance or not applicable, or let's just go down to another standard. I've showed you how to do the tier one. I've shown you how to do by chapter, but maybe within a specific chapter, maybe 4115 police service canines, just this standard maybe is not applicable to our organization because we don't have canines. I can click just on this standard, attachments tab, statuses tab, tasks tab. I'm going to go to the statuses tab for my role of accreditation manager. I'm going to set it to not applicable and save. No expiration date. I don't want this status to expire because we don't have canines. I don't need it to hit my inbox later unless you just want it to, and I select save. So that's one less standard that I have to deal with. Just so again, bulk setting or standard by standard, you can set those statuses. So a couple of different ways. That's what we wanted to cover in this video. Other videos, again, we will cover other topics. If you have questions, please reach out to Power DMS support.